her staff for taking a leadership role and inviting Mina here to speak with us today. We're very excited to have you, and she brought her mom with her today, so that's awesome as well. So during Women's History Month, we reflect on a long legacy and historic impact women have made on this country and abroad. For decades, the contributions of women have often been overlooked or excluded from our history books, as with many other minority groups. Events like this today allow us the opportunity to celebrate women, minorities, people. We're all about people. Women have contributed greatly to the development of science, technology, engineering, and math. We utilize the advancements in all things that we do here at Massport each and every day. Massport is very dedicated to having a diverse staff that represents the community in which we live. 31% of our employees at Massport are women. Women make up 1/3 of the senior leadership team, and 3 women hold seats on our 7-member board. But we cannot be satisfied with those results. We must do better. We need to do better, and we will do better. I promise you that. As we do so, we will continue to heed the words of Massachusetts' own Abigail Adams, who reminded her husband in a letter in 1776. And let me read, I quote, "I desire you would remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of only husbands." Words to live by. Thank you all for being here today. Thank you, Mina Khan, for being here as well. And we look forward to hearing of the extraordinary accomplishments that your daughter has achieved in her professional career. Thank you.
And now, if we will, we'll welcome Jennifer Mahegan, Director of Media Relations, for the authority to the stage. Jennifer has been at Massport for close to 5 years, and she is the Director of Media Relations for the past 2 years. After studying journalism in graduate school, Jennifer began her career as a reporter for a small local newspaper here in Boston. She held positions in the mayor's office and with Boston EMS before joining Massport. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer Mahegan to the stage. And now for the lady of the hour, Mina Khan, software engineer at Google and a research scientist at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Mina is a research scientist at the MIT Media Lab, she is a mathematician, a physicist, a computer scientist, an economist, a designer, an engineer, and a hacker, but most importantly, a curious and playful and compassionate person at heart. And in between all of that, she bakes cookies and sells Girl Scout cookies. Mina is currently a software engineer at Google and previously was at the Media Lab in the Fluid Interfaces group. She was a computer science, physics, and mathematics triple major at Mount Holyoke College. She worked with Professor Russ Tedrake in the robot locomotion group at MIT, and Mina is interested in robotics, artificial intelligence, distributed systems, and cloud computing. Please join me in welcoming Mina Khan.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Just a little fireside chat going on. Am I correct that you grew up in Pakistan?
I did, yes.
That's amazing. And then you came to the U.S. to study at Mount Holyoke in Western Massachusetts, which would be very proud that you've come to Massachusetts to study. From there, as Ken mentioned, a career at MIT and Google. Can you briefly talk about how you got to where you are today, and if you can, a little bit of what you're actually working on, because I think we're all very curious.
Definitely, yeah. So I think the several things you say, I never planned to be like a mathematician or a computer scientist or anything, I think. But at every point in life, I think the question I asked myself was like, how can I make the most impact with whatever I have? And like my mom is sitting here, and to be very honest, like there were days in like Pakistan when like I didn't know if I would be able to go to school next day. But I think the question still remained that like, okay, whatever skills I have, what can I do with it? So when I was in Pakistan, I thought like, okay, I'm good at math, I enjoy doing it. Maybe I can do some developmental economics to help Pakistan. When I came here, like I had really amazing professors in Mount Holyoke College, so I started doing. So they were the ones who introduced me to like physics and computer science. I was like, whoa, I can do a lot more with this kind of technology. Let me just start like exploring this. And I think from there, so I started acquiring the skills and realized that like the more skills I have, I can make more impact with it. And I think I've been really, lucky that I have had the ability to get those skills. What I'm working on right now is, I actually left my job at Google to come to the Media Lab. So I'm currently there, I'm a PhD student there. I think we are lucky that I'm there because if I were at Google, I wouldn't be able to talk about my work. So when I was at Google, I think there's something I started noticing is that 30, 40 years later in our lives, like we like develop health problems or mental health problems that like started 30, 40 years ago, but then we are only told about them when they're out of our hands and it's too late to help us. Like, you have not been eating well and you have this heart condition, you have not been sleeping well and that's how it has impacted your brain. Like, college students are notorious for pulling all-nighters, but they actually like, your brain eats itself when you don't sleep well. So I started saying, why do we have to find out about after 30, 40 years? Why can't we see the real-time impact of what we do on our body? So if you're listening to a certain type of music, how it changes like the structure of your brain, or if you are doing like a particular activity, meeting another person, are you getting anxious? So getting that window in your life and being able to regulate your own lifestyle based on that was something that I was really interested in. And then I started asking myself the question, okay, how can I make it happen? And there were like everything, like all those skills started to play into it, that I had to be a designer, I had to start looking into like what a person thinks, what they do, and artificial intelligence and STEM has a great role to play in it because that's how we model human behavior. So we understand what a person does. So I have a wearable device that can like see what a person does in real time and how it impacts their body. And it's everything from your like heart rate to ultimately how your even genes and the structure of your brain changes. So like for example, you can see like, okay, meditation helps you with this. And I think this was a little bit because, and I don't know if I'm saying too much, I'm just like way too excited about this stuff, so I can talk about it for hours. But like, you see these studies every day, like coffee helps you with this, coffee is good for you, coffee is bad for you. Like, science is the most indecisive thing these days, and it's because like they try to like create this for a normal person, whereas there's no like average person. Like, you're different every day. So I was like, okay, you need to have this like capability to be able to see that this is what I'm doing and how it impacts me. And I think this is something that, so I call it PAL, which is Personalized Active Learner. And I say this is my spirit. This is like, if I were there so it has an audio input and output, just can't see what you're doing, it can also talk to you. So like, I'm often there with my friends telling them, oh, like, how can they help themselves or like be better, or if they're down, just pull them up and say like, no, there's a positive side to things. So this device is basically giving you a bit of self-awareness, bit of mindfulness, and like a positive reminder in your life. Yeah, that's my PhD work. So yeah, it's supposed to like help you in your daily life, allow you to take more charge, just get to know yourself better, be better whatever you want to be. Yeah.
Wow.
I know it sounds crazy, but I'll make it happen.
Yeah. So I was having, I'm sure some people in the room can relate, probably not you, because you seem a little younger than I am, but we were talking about how we first experienced email in college, and we were talking about, you know, the first kid on the street who had a VCR. And I was talking about, we had which you probably don't even know what this is, but we had a phone in the kitchen, and it had, you know, we had one phone line in the house, and the phone in the kitchen had this really stretched out cord, because you try to get that tiny bit of privacy, because you take it down the hallway or wherever, and everyone in my family would be yelling about, get off the phone, I want to use the phone, and all this. So we were talking about how technology has just changed so quickly, and obviously with your sort of introduction, it's, you know, it's a light speed. But do you see the pace of technology continuing at this crazy pace, or do you sort of see it slowing down, that, I don't know, certain goals are met and it's not just this boom, 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 I need the next phone, I need the next computer type thing? Or do you see technology in a different way?
So I think technology will change drastically. I think the rate of growth will be the same, to be honest, but I think it'll be less obvious and more part of your life. So I think like a lot of technological advancement that has happened in the past few years, I think that has been drastic, but in some ways like not so mindful. Now I think, I don't know how many of you have seen Black Mirror on Netflix. Yeah, so people have started to realize that like it's not all good, and I think, as for example, like my device, we're trying to be like make it better. So I think it'll continue to surprise you. Like we have these like nano robots, nano medicines, like medicines that can go and impact your body, and like all those things, I think they're gonna go exponentially up.
Yeah.
So it'll even be faster. Like I don't think I'll be able. I have a little nephew who's growing up, and I don't think like I'll be able to keep pace with him when he enters the phase. So it'll be fast, but I think where it goes, it's up to us to direct that growth. Like, do we want to leave it to companies, or do we want to have like individuals like you and I who say like, no, this is what this force should be used for.
Yeah.
So that's my perspective.
No, that's great. I think everyone in the room, we're very proud that you have, hopefully you've chosen Massachusetts to, you know, study and to come here and to work. What is your favorite thing about Massachusetts?
My favorite thing about Massachusetts, I think it's Cambridge.
We'll allow it, you know, right over there.
I think it's, there are a lot of things about Cambridge that inspire me, but yeah, it's the ability to be like you have the best institutions over there. I think the people, they're very open. You can have like any sorts of conversation with them. It's not just like I have my yoga studio here. I love going there. Maybe I love it more than my lab sometimes. But it's just this, I think that people are really open here. I came here for Boston was my first trip outside Pakistan ever. I came here for like a Harvard Model United Nations. I'd never traveled anywhere outside it. And it was like freezing cold, there was a blizzard going on, but I still loved it. I just thought it was like really authentic, and then I think Mount Holyoke was equally good. I think it's the, like you said, you're all about the people, and I think it's the people of Massachusetts who make it who they are.
Yeah.
And I love having random conversations on the tea with people. They'll open doors for you even though they don't know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's my favorite part of Massachusetts, the people over here.
What I want to ask is, in your opinion, what is the reputation of the United States when it comes to STEM? Because obviously we've got Google, we've got the MIT Media Lab, we've got like large companies really working on this, but overall, did you want to specifically come to the U.S. to study?
I think at that point, I was choosing between, I think, UK and US, but I think my top priority was MIT. Like, that was my dream school.
Yep.
I didn't get in, but I kept trying. Yes, I think the reputation in terms of research is really good, but I think you've all seen studies and surveys where they say US doesn't do as well as other like developed countries
Right.
in terms of STEM education. So I think we need to improve, and I don't think it's just a curriculum. My previous project was Mathland, which is about teaching kids mathematics and like STEM fields in virtual reality. I think like we need to change our perspective on STEM. Like you said, you can't do math. You probably do more math. Math is just this like logical way of thinking about things. Like, why do people even say they can't do math? And like the whole perception of like I can't do math is the thing that like stops people from doing math. And it's not something that you're born with, like, oh, you like get up and say like I really can't do math. It's like it's what people around you sort of like start to tell you, like, oh, math is difficult, you probably can't do it. It might be your teacher who may have said this to you. So I think like I'm all about believing that yes, this is the place to do science, but I also realize that we need to encourage more people to just be open to it. Like, for example, if there's like you have a dream project and it involves math, then like you shouldn't be like, oh, I can't do my dream project because I can't do math. You should just be able to be like, I can do anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So as a Port Authority, we have a very close relationship with our surrounding communities. You know, we run 3 airports, including Logan. We run the Port of Boston. So obviously, STEM is a daily part of many of the employees' lives. Is there anything that you can think of that we could be doing better to, working with the community, working with younger people to inspire them, to motivate them to go into the STEM fields?
I think I think the way of learning I like the most is like project-based. You don't have to go teach a class there, but you can probably like have like a science fair or exhibition where they can start making projects. Like at Media Lab, we have this like way of learning, which is like learning as you do stuff. You don't have to teach them like a curriculum, but they can probably like everything we have learned or I have learned there is like by doing it, by like learning how to program. So I think if you like open up projects, give people problems instead of solutions. Like, okay, we have this open-ended problem. Can you optimize it? Like challenge yourself. Like I'm sure you have a lot of numbers, and like you can just like ask your employees if they can bring something down by a lot, like by a certain percentage. Because I think math at its heart is creativity. Like how do anybody can do like calculations using a calculator. Like that's not what's math. It's a unique way of thinking about things. You don't have to be a calculator. Like I can't do like 2,354 times like 152. Like nobody wants you to do that.
Right.
But just your way of like thinking about things. That's all that's math is.
Yeah.
So yeah, just get into projects. Get involved with like competitions, like always try to make things better, and I think you'll find a challenge.
We do have an annual sort of community fair where we try to expose younger people to careers in the different sort of STEM fields. The FAA comes down and different groups, but that's an interesting point that perhaps we could sort of incorporate projects into that.
Yeah, I think people are always fascinated by challenges. Like if you tell them. So there's a teaching thing, whereas there's a learning thing. I think we should focus more on like people learning versus us teaching them. And then we can give them all the resources they need to learn. And I think internet is resource enough.
Yeah. You keep bringing up math. In your TED Talk, which I would recommend that everyone watch, you talk about your love of math. And again, I think everyone in this room understands how much you love math. But how did you discover that? And did your family or did your community really foster that? Like, how does that start?
So my mom isn't good at math.
Alright, now we need some math to fix that.
And like, to be honest, I'm no expert in math, but it's just that I'm not afraid of it. The only reason I started loving math is I used to say, this is the only subject I can do while listening to music. So maybe the real motivation was music, but it didn't require me to rote learn things. It was just, I think, like maybe I had really good teachers who like started to explain those concepts to me, but it was a little bit of like focused meditation activity that I used to do. And like I think back home they taught math really, really well. And over here, it was just this thing about like not being afraid of things. And this is something that I think my mom is really good at. So she didn't teach me my love for math, but she taught me not to be afraid of things. So yeah, I think every time when somebody said like, oh, math is so hard, I was like, nothing is hard. Nothing is impossible. And if you need something to get it done, like I needed math to do my project. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I think it was like my sheer love for things that was like math is nothing, math is just a tool. Like if you want to do imaging, like it's a tool, you don't have to be afraid of it. And I think that like whole fearlessness comes from her, is that if you love something, like don't be afraid of anything you have to do for that like particular thing. Like, like my mom is a single mother, so like she loved us, and that's why she was able to do a lot of things in like Pakistan society for us. So I think that was the whole mentality that, okay, like it wasn't like I'm not Galileo or somebody who was like, okay, like math is my thing. It was just that I loved doing things, I loved making an impact, and I knew not to be afraid of whatever came in the way to like doing what I love.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my honest answer. I don't know if you were expecting something like
No. I mean,
like I dreamt of like solutions of mathematical problems. Nothing like that.
So it was Pi Day the other day, and you're at MIT. Were there all these people going 3.14?
Oh, I hate Pi Day.
Yeah. I thought it was like a thing. Like, is there some competition about who can go like
the
50 digits of pi or whatever?
Sure, but you don't have to do that to be like a mathematician. Again, that's like, I think, memorization.
The calculator has a pi button.
Exactly. So you don't need it. Yeah, I think that's just like, I think when people like something, they can do it. But like I don't think that shows your like mathematical ability. That's just like, how much can you learn? And if you really want to learn, have you heard of the memory palace technique? Like if you want to be like, okay, I have memorized like 20 digits of pi. So this memory palace technique is like, whatever, like, so think of a route that you like go through. So maybe like from your house to this office. And you can start placing those digits at like particular locations and just visualize those like every day in that. So like, so this works with the associative memory in your brain. So you already know the route now. As you visualize like different digits there in a sequence, you'll learn how to like memorize that. So that's just a memory feat. It's not a math thing. Yeah. So you can totally learn it.
This is great.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you can be like, I'm so cool, I know all this.
Right. I'm memorizing pi.
Lemon pie.
Yeah. So some of your work involves robotics, artificial intelligence. We are in the transportation business with maritime and with air travel, and quite recently cars and buses. Do you have any predictions about any of these areas? You know, are we going to have flying cars, or is everyone going to get rid of their car?
Oh God, no.
Like anything like that?
So, I honestly don't believe that much in predictions. I think I believe in like making the future instead of predicting it. But yeah, I think there are a lot of big companies who want to make like self-driving cars, who want to do a lot of like, so transportation has always changed, and I think it'll like keep evolving. But again, how you want that change to happen is like for example, if you ask me to predict, I'm going to predict a future where like you have like climate-friendly transportation systems. You have more like public transportation. Like one of the reasons I love Cambridge is because, or Boston area, is because of the T system you have there. It's like environmentally friendly. It's people get to be together. So yes, I think it'll change a lot, but I hope it changes in a way that's good, not just for the people, but also for like the environment. And yes, maybe you guys should look into space transportation, because that's going to be big. People are going crazy for it. We have a space program at the Media Lab, so if you want to come and check
Absolutely.
it out. We're sending robots to space. Yeah. So that's something that you can look into.
I'm in?
John and I will go.
Yeah, you're welcome to come check out the space at any time. Like, we have everything from Legos to robots
I'm
to
good with the Legos.
I did want to bring it back to why we're here, which is Women's History Month. So I know you're not currently at Google, but recently Google published sort of what I'm calling a diversity report card for 2018. It shows some growth in the percentage of female employees, so they're at about 31% female employees, which I believe is very close to what we are here. But as a younger person, female, and an ethnic minority, I'm sort of wondering, how does diversity in the workplace affect you, and is it something that you think about on a regular basis?
So actually, I think, so this is a plug for Google. Google was honestly a very, very awesome place for me to be at. So I was working in their future of wearables team, and I think I was the only female software engineer for it was a small team, and initially I was the only female software engineer. And I was way younger than all of my colleagues, but they were super respectful, and not just oh, I'm going to mentor you because you're so young. It was also oh, I actually respect all your ideas, and I think I was actually going out of my way and innovating a lot of things, and they were really, really respectful. But I don't think that's something that happens everywhere. So yeah, I think diversity is honestly really important, especially I think at the Media Lab. Even at the Media Lab, we didn't have female grad students for a long time. And even right now, very honestly, it's not the most supportive environment. There are days when we're I just said what this male colleague said, why didn't you listen to me? But then I remember my physics professor at Mount Holyoke College used to tell me stories from her time as a graduate student at Harvard, and she was there were only 2 female grad students in her group. And she said I was also short, so in addition to being a woman, I was short. So she said, but me and my colleague, whenever my professor would listen to another male student and overlook what we had said, the other one would say but this is this is exactly what she said 5 minutes ago. So I think just being there for each other, I share my office with another female PhD student, and we have this ritual, we always hug each other once a day. Sometimes we don't even talk about work, but we know that we are there for each other. So yes, I think diversity impacts, and sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. But yeah, I think we need to have each other's back.
Yeah.
And I think my male colleagues are also really, really wonderful. Some of them recognize what's going on, sometimes they don't, but it's just an everyday thing.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
I think do we have a couple of questions in the back there?
I want to ask a question about your research work, but as an aside, I went to RPI, and March 14th is the biggest day of the year for them. I'm wondering, how do you deal with or think about some of the moods and emotions that, while they may not be optimal, you're happy all the time, but things like pensiveness or things of that nature, where it's not a bad thing to be, it's a learning experience. How do you think about that in your work?
Yeah, so I think emotions are something that have been dealt really wrongly in a lot of scientific literature. So they're sad is bad, or angry is bad, and they don't realize that all these emotions, they make a balance. You can't be happy all the time. So this is not a happiness booster pill or something that we are giving you. Like I said, I think my research is more about self-awareness. I think humans should have the ability to look within themselves and see what's going on. It's almost I often talk to my friends, they're okay, I have this pain, I'm going to take a painkiller. You shouldn't have to just like if your body is saying something to you, there's a reason behind it. Like if you have a backache, like don't just take a painkiller, see if you've been doing something wrong to not take care of yourself. I think for the same emotions, like again, I think my technology is more about like helping you, I think, be more accepting to those emotions. So like this is like we're not trying to like cure the symptoms as those medicines do. We're trying to like help you like see why things are happening. So if like there are days when you like feel bad periodically, like what happens during those days? Are you or how can you fix it? Can you like you can sort of self-experiment. So if taking your dog out for a walk actually like helps you feel better, or whatever it is, I think it's just the journey of being able to look within yourself is something that I want to help people with. And it's not like a goal of like, okay, you have to be happy all the time. I think that's the worst possible state ever, because then that happiness just becomes a constant and you don't feel good about it. So if you want to look into it more, there's this thing called positive psychology, and this whole thing is about just being 10% better. And better doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm better. It can also be like, I learned something about myself today.
Thank you.
So did you say that you're working on a project that helps people with metacognition
That's
or awareness?
self-awareness, yeah.
Yeah. So that self-awareness, how does it work from a technology point of view? Because I understand from a psychology point of view, you can talk things out. But what is the technology that's helping that person?
So we're still working on the details of it, but the idea I started out with is like something, so humans have imperfect memories, right? We don't remember what we have done in the past few days, and so it's not just about having an imperfect memory, but also we develop biases when we can't remember things right. And so the whole point of this device is, so there are two parts to this device. Is like one is the activities you do, and the other one is like how you feel internally. It can be your physical or emotional state. So this is basically like connecting your activities to your internal state. So like I do X, I feel Y. I do like Y, Z, I feel like this thing.
But what is connecting those two thoughts? What is the technology that...
Machine learning. Machine learning. So we have a lot of sensors. So I have a ear-worn wearable device. So it has a little tiny camera as small as like a button or something. So you can wear it. It's also tracking your heart rate. And it has like on-device machine learning. So almost like an iPod you can plug on your like clothing. And so it's processing what you're doing. So like it can't read your thoughts. I wouldn't want it to read your thoughts, but you can talk. So it's a device so it has a microphone, so you can talk to it and record. So like, for example, if you are somebody who wants to improve their diet, because I think diet has a lot of implications on a lot of things. So you can talk to it and say that like, okay, next time I'm about to eat something, remind me to be mindful, remind me to feel what I'm doing, or like remind me this thing that my mother said. So this has a camera. It can like detect in real time that you have some sort of food and you're eating it, and then it'll talk to you. Or it can be like with respect to smoking, that next time I'm about to like smoke a cigarette, then like remind me this. And I think the main thing we want to remind people is like, you know about like talk therapy and self-talk, it can really help you. And I think the biggest thing I want to remind, like help people get over is like this whole like learned helplessness thing. I don't know how many of you have like seen that, heard of that experiment, but if you get a chance, look it up. Is usually there's like a perceived ability and there's a real ability. I think people have much lower perceived ability. So just reminding themselves that not just be mindful, but just reassuring that they can do it. And usually like this is something that I think therapists do, but why do you have to go to them after like 2-3 weeks? I think like you can get a self-help book, but you want something in the moment with you. Like you want that voice in the moment, because like when something happens, I think that like you forget about what your therapist said or like all the self-help books. Like you're just in the moment. So I'm guilty of stress eating. So like I want something to remind me in that point is to just like, hey, relax, it's gonna be okay. You don't have to like eat your emotions up.
How do you program it to know that, so that you're not programming it to say something other, like, go ahead and have that ice cream? How do you program it with a positive?
So we have like an app that programs it. Yeah. So you can also program it yourself. So you can say, so it's not like we make the app with like specific data that this is the only thing you can say. You can talk to the device and record your own messages, and be like, and it can play different things at that time. Yeah.
I think you just sold like 50 years.
I can like have you as test subjects. We're gonna be doing a lot of testing, so you can like have it in your life. And I would love for you to like give me your feedback, because I think like I'm not doing it to publish papers. I'm actually doing it because like I called it PAL for a reason, is I wanted it to be an extension of myself that can be there with people. Like I would love to go and say like, hey, it's gonna be fine, but I can't be there with people.
That's great. Again.
So in the work environment, we often make distinctions between hard skills and soft skills. So by how you describe your work and your passion, it doesn't seem that there's a definitive line. So how do you think about that, or what are your suggestions for us as we continue to have this conversation about what's required to innovate and to be better team members, et cetera? How do you think about these terms and how we otherwise talk about it?
I think I would just say break all the rules. Like there are no rules about like how you should do something. Like somebody might tell you like, okay, you need more math to do it this way. Maybe you think like, no, I actually need to go in the field to do something. I think like all these lines are very fluid. So I think the more you think about them and try to constrain yourself with them, like the worse it's gonna be. Like, why does it matter if it's a hard skill or soft skill? You just need to do it, right? I don't know, this is how I think about it. Maybe it's very naive, but it's like the more I think about it, there are days when I'm not just like, not even like doing technical work, but I'm just trying to make sure I have a team of really, really good people I can do good work with. And like, that's another thing that contributes to my project. And the team I work with, I tell them that like, I think my project is the thing that matters the most in my life, but you guys are even like above it, because like I have to care about them. So is that a soft skill? Is that a hard skill? Is that like management? Is that strategy? I don't know. It's just the right thing to do.
My question is about math. So I have a 10-year-old in the 4th grade, and when he comes home with his homework, I have to email the teacher like, can you send me the answers first before you send me the homework, because I can't figure it out. Because math is not a great subject for me either, but I'm always on Google. So if we don't know anything, we just Google it, like how do you do whatever. But when they're going through the process of how you get it, it's still like foreign to me. So it's like, how can I better explain it to my 10-year-old, pretty much? Like math, like we're doing fractions.
Right. So it's sad how I think schools operate. Like I told you I have a nephew, and I tell my sister like I'm gonna homeschool him because schools don't know how to teach. And I think she's like terrified of me because like once when I was teaching her, like I made her cry. So she's like, that's not
So might not be the best person to ask.
But I think whenever I am teaching myself somebody, I just think of it as me relearning something. So like think of like how you would explain it to yourself, and then like explain it to your kid instead of like, okay, this is how it should be done. So like you can take him to the kitchen and like explain him what fractions are. How do you break different things? Fraction is basically like dividing things into portions, right? This is how sharing happens. So you can teach him fractions with like sharing. Just give him more examples and get him involved with activities that involve that concept. Because I think math is usually like it's sad that math is treated as an abstract concept. Whereas like if you are a musician, I don't know, do you have any musicians in the room? So you can talk about like fractions in terms of music. So like where I'm not a musician, so I don't know, but like where you pluck a chord can actually change what like note it creates. So like fraction is all that. Or you can think about how like fraction like plays a role in your life, or whatever mathematical operation it is. And yeah, Google it.
Heck, and then.
Yeah, you seem so nice. I did end up being a hacker.
Security guy.
So I never thought I would be a hacker because they always showed these hackers as these like people who would like are very dark and wear hoodies, very like. I mean, so I needed to be a hacker to implement what I do. So I wanted to do something nice, but I had to hack my way through it. So, yeah.
I'm sorry, you had a question here?
No, sir.
Oh, okay. Here you go.
With so many rapid advancements in technology, with social platforms, artificial intelligence, how would you suggest that people stay up to date and comfortable with using new technologies as they come on?
So I don't think you necessarily have to stay up to date because I think you're going to drive yourself nuts if you like try to understand every single technology. But yes, like all technology isn't good either, right? You don't have to know, like I think in your head you have to sort of prioritize and you just have to let those priorities be fluid. So like right now I think like artificial intelligence is going to contribute a lot to my project and like I hope to do it in like a year and then I'm going to start focusing more on biotech to like make more of like devices that can monitor your internal cells. So like take everything in bits and like you don't have to understand everything in one frame of time. You can understand one thing really well and then move on to the next. And you can decide that by like and it can be your own question, but like the question that I ask myself is what is the thing I'm most interested in? How can I make the most impact? It can be your own question, but like you don't have to learn like knowledge. Like having more knowledge doesn't necessarily mean like you're better off. You can have a little bit of knowledge, but like how you use that knowledge is I think what matters.
Can I ask you a question on mentorship? The importance of mentorship. I heard you talking about your mama. She's definitely one of your mentors, like probably a lot of us. But how a mentor, male or female, helped you navigate to your choice? Not easy, but you had to do to, help you out to see a vision or where you could go. You're still young, but I hope you had some good mentors.
Oh, I think like the person I am is because of like the mentors I've had. I think like you have mentors, but you sort of there's so many names I can call off the top of my head. So my math teacher in high school, this teacher I think taught me even like at the time he thought like I may not even be able to pay his fee. So like I think that's what a mentor is, and like I think as a mentor or as a friend or somebody like I think there's a lot of love underlying these things, and I think he had a lot of unconditional love for me, and he mentored me even though like he didn't know I could do math at that point, and like I had a lot of respect for him, so whatever he was teaching me, I was like giving all my attention to it. And I think this is something that like, this was sort of in my family values, that you have to give back the love and do everything. Like, I love being a mentor to my students. I love learning from them. So like, you don't have to be in a specific role. But yeah, mentors are the most important thing. And you can be somebody's mentor for 5 minutes and then like go back to your role of being a student. I don't know, but I think the human relations are the most important things. Does that answer your question? Yeah, I can't like, it's so important I can't even begin to describe it.
I think at the moment that's all the time we have. Yeah.
Yeah. So terrific, thank you. So, Mina, we have a tradition here where we want to give you a token of our appreciation. So if you would, and Mom, join us. Jennifer? So we thought that we would frame the invitation for you to join us today in celebrating Women's History Month. And it says, to Mina Khan, with deep appreciation and recognition of your commitment to diversity, 2019 Women's History Month event, March 26, 2019, the Massachusetts Port Authority. Thank you so much. Thank you.